everybody. What's going on? It's Sunday, and it's movie time.
Yeah, I gotta make sure I'm in the video.
Yeah, get in this video.
I might be in the video next to it.
That never gets old. I just it just tickles me thinking about you popping into the video next door on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, hey, they're like, who the fuck are you?
Yes, I don't know. Like Hollywood Squares.
Yeah. Get out of my video, Paul Lind. Yeah. So it's just kind of like that.
All right. There can be only one.
Yeah, that's what they say.
There can be only one.
And here, look at this.
Yep. This one was from a good
Louie
Hernandez, a great friend of the show for years and years. Been a really good contributor by sending us fucking Blu-rays.
And look how shiny it is. That's a steel book,
It's a steel book. It's got a damp, clear plastic slip cover. It's got trading cards in it. It's in 4K, and it's a top notch. It's a top notch edition of that. It's really nice, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And this is a great movie. Saw it in the theater when it came out as a kid. I remember liking it. I think I may have seen it twice, while it was in the theater, and it held up. It's good. I didn't realize it was a canon film.
I did not realize that either.
It was a canon film. Yeah.
He's like, oh, I have to wear the canon shirt.
Because it was real good for a canon film. Canon was always entertaining, but a lot of it was schlock. But you knew what you were getting into, you know. But no, this is a canon film. It's one of their better films as far as I'm concerned. Good score.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, great edit.
I mean, the concept is great.
Yeah, it's got a real good edit. Jenny, I'll let Jenny fill you in on the story.
So Highlander. This came out in 1986. Now, I feel like I did not see this in the theater, but I did see it on cable once or twice, and I remember enjoying it, although it wasn't like super, because it's kind of more, I guess it's like a fantasy, the adventure kind of film, which wasn't usually my favorite thing, but seeing it again, I was like, wow, this really is like a cool ass movie, and I feel like it didn't do very well at the box office. I think it cost $19 million to make, and $1 million of that was Sean Connery's salary.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
I need my money, bitches.
Well,
he's great in the movie.
He's fucking Sean Connery.
Yeah, he's great in the movie.
I mean, even though he only shot like he only had to shoot for 7 days.
Yeah.
So it's like $1 million for a week. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. But
you get what you pay for.
Right. But yeah, so it only cost, and it didn't even make its money back. Like it tanked at the box office. Yes.
Oh man, we saw it. Like I said, we loved it.
But it was one of those ones, and I feel like this happened a lot in the '80s, that it came out in the theater and everyone was like meh, or they didn't go see it. But then when it came out on VHS, then everybody was into it. Like it would get around by word of mouth, and that's definitely what happened on this one. This one got so much play, like after it came out on VHS, that it ended up spawning a whole entire franchise. There was a second movie, which is terrible. A third movie, which is also terrible, but I think is better than the second one. There was a TV series, which actually a lot of people think is really good. And there was an animated series. There was a couple video games. So it's like, and they're talking about doing a remake. They even have cast Henry Cavill, who is supposed to be, which he'd be good, I think. Who's going to be the main Highlander guy. But yeah, so they've been talking about remaking it. This is one of those movies, it's so 80s that it hurts, but then in other ways, like, it's almost like timeless. Is that a weird thing to say?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with its practical effects. So they've aged well. It aged a lot better than CG, because the special effects that you're seeing are kind of artistic lightning bolts and shit. It's a fantasy movie.
Yeah. So
the tone is correct. There's some scenes that have like some good miniature work. You know, the sign that the Kurgan is cutting down with a woman tied to it at the end. Castles collapsing, they're falling apart because you hit it too hard with a sword. I don't understand this shit. That's just
the swords are magical.
They're magical swords. That's right. And just cool outfits. It's just a good movie. But I think one of the things that really shines is the edit of this movie. It's very fast paced, but it is giving you all the details that you need to know. There's an element of romance in the movie.
Yeah, there is actually.
Yeah, which is for a dude flick that's normally not there. But you're trying to be sensitive with this fucking movie. But not overly sensitive.
Can't
Can't
have
be
that.
too overly sensitive.
Yeah,
just sensitive enough.
Not too many emotions.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of emotions.
And watching this thing, and I was going like, you know what? This is a Neil Breen movie.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
This is the movies that Neil
Except
Breen...
good.
Yeah, except good. These are the movies that Neil Breen was trying to write. Movies about dudes with supernatural powers, all these women loving on him, but no, I can't sleep with you, baby.
Because I live forever and you'll turn into an old hag.
Yeah, right, yeah. All once I've completed with my mission, I will save mankind. And all these cheesy kind of like one-liner type powers, and statements. Lots of different. Where are you from? From lots of different places. Like that's a big deal. Just all kinds of shit about it is very Breen-esque, which I think Breen was ripping this off, trying to rip these movies off. He wanted to be the Highlander, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I think, he probably was very influenced by this movie.
I think this movie actually influenced all of his movies.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think the reason that it works, and maybe, I don't know, we'll get into this a little bit, because, the main role, obviously, the Highlander, whose name is Connor McLeod, actually, well, that's his real name. Like, I think in the present day timeline, he's named Russell Nash. But, so he's played by Christopher Lambert, or Lambert, if you would rather, who, interestingly, I don't know if you knew this, but when they hired him to be the lead in this, it was actually supposed to be Kurt Russell.
That would have worked.
Yeah, he was actually supposed to be in it, but I think he had to pull out, like, in pre-production.
I would have loved that.
But yeah, that's who I think was... There was a couple other actors, I think, that were up for it, but I think Kurt Russell was the one that was most associated with it. But they saw Christopher Lambert in Greystoke, that Tarzan movie.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, he was great in that. And it's like the look, that's who we want. So they got him, but they didn't realize that he couldn't speak English. Because he was born in the United States, but his parents were French diplomats. So he actually grew up in France and Switzerland, and his English was almost non-existent. So he actually had to work with a dialogue coach for this movie for a few months, like, to get enough English to be... And I think he did okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You wouldn't really know that he couldn't speak any English when he got hired to do this
you could tell he's got an accent, but you
well,
didn't know he can't speak English.
But I mean, I knew he was French anyway, so it was just kind of like, I was like, obviously he's got a French accent, although he's playing a Scottish person, and everybody brings this up. So it's like they got a French guy to play a Scottish guy, and then they got a real Scottish guy, Sean Connery, to play an Egyptian playing a Spaniard.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not really sure why they couldn't have just, like, flipped that, or... Because I don't think it would have made a big difference to the story. Like, for sure, like, Sean Connery's character, he absolutely did not have to be Egyptian or Spanish. He could have just been Scottish. And really, the Highlander... Well, I guess the reason it was called Highlander... Well, but they didn't... But that wasn't the original name of the movie. The original name of the movie, matter of fact, was The Dark Knight. Which, obviously, they can't call it that.
No, they're talking about the Kurgan.
Yeah.
It was Clancy Brown.
Yeah, because he was just called the Knight in the original version of
Clancy
the story.
Brown kind of steals the show in this movie.
I love Clancy Brown so much. He is so awesome.
He was the guy from Starship Troopers. He was in
Starship Troopers, He
was
played the monster
sergeant
in The Bride.
Yeah.
He's also the voice of Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants.
Right. Yeah. And he's a good character in this. He's fucking huge. I didn't realize he's that tall.
Yeah, he's a massive motherfucker.
He's fucking tall. He's not real massive, he's not like Arnold or anything. Arnold wasn't that tall, but he's just imposing, a big tall dude with some mass on him, and he can cover a lot of distance pretty quickly during those swords fights, because big old long lanky legs, and kind of an intimidating presence for a guy who's so fucking crazy and immature. I mean, he's very immature-ish.
They made him kind of
like a psycho. Yeah.
Kind of like a heavy metal dude.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, in the original, because this story was initially written by a guy named Gregory Wyden, and he actually wrote the script for this when he was still in film school, I think.
Yeah.
And in the original story, which was like a lot more serious, like the Knight character was like a lot more serious and a lot more kind of like burdened, I guess, like by his immortality. Yeah. But when they went into the movie, they were like, let's just have fun with it, I guess. And he just went like totally over the top. And I think like to a large extent it works.
Yeah. Now, I saw this in the theater when I was a kid, and I was a big metal fan. And I didn't see it. He was not you could probably say in general he was supposed to have like a heavy metal image, but
Yeah.
it wasn't mainstream metal. During that time, mainstream metal was like fucking Duncan and definitely he was like black metal.
Yeah.
You know, like satanic metal looking, almost because some of he went like semi-goth bondage punk rock kind of.
They always
outfits.
dress bad guys like that in 80s movies or,
He looked
or
good,
like
though.
punks. Yeah,
He looked real good.
I
though.
thought he looked cool.
Yeah.
Although I first saw him, and the first thing I thought was like, oh, it looked like somebody inflated Lux interior.
Yeah. He had torn up fingerless gloves, and fucking one of his sleeves was missing on his leather jacket, kind of like out of damn
Commando.
No, that was fucking Mad Max.
Oh, right.
Yeah, out of Road Warrior, one of his sleeves was missing because they ripped it off. Remember?
Yeah.
His arm was outside the car window, and they pulled it off. But he had in the rest of the movie, he's just got one sleeve on his jacket.
What do you think? I can afford another sleeve?
Yeah,
what are we, millionaires?
So he's got that, and then there's a little bit of chain mail in it,
Mm-hmm.
and that sword. I thought it was a good outfit. It was much better than Lambert's outfits, especially in the opening scene where he does a sword fight with this guy who ends up killing him down the parking lot. And I remember seeing that for the first time, you know, and I was going, "What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on with this movie?" You know what I mean? Lightning bolts and shit, and dead bodies coming up, headless dead bodies. Well, in that one, he's got a tan overcoat and just jeans and white sneakers running around. And he's fighting a dude in a suit. And it just looked, to me, I thought it was a poor choice of costumes for that scene. He should have been in like a suit also. I thought it looked a lot
Yeah,
better.
I think that would have looked a lot cooler. Or, you know, put him in something a little more slick. Because, he kind of looked like a bum
Like
or
a bum, right,
like
yeah.
a flasher at the Greyhound station. Like, a little bit.
He looked like a poser. He looked like a dude who really couldn't afford any clothes, and he just happened to find a cool trench coat and put it on. You know, which there was a lot of that.
Was very Columbo. I feel like.
And there was a lot of that going on when in the '80s. If you were a teenager, you couldn't get any cool clothes. So he looked like a teenager from the '80s.
He did kind of. Now that you mention it.
But then you find out he's a fucking multi-millionaire. So he should have had his choice of clothes. That motherfucker should have been, dressed to the nines. And he was at a game. So
like
there's
a
no
wrestling
reason,
match.
Right? Yeah. So there's no reason for him to dress down.
Garden.
And he had to have the overcoat to hide the sword.
Yeah, that's what Ben just said. He had to hide a sword somewhere.
Yeah, but the thing is that the rest of his shit that he was wearing didn't match the overcoat. So, but then the dude he was fighting was fucking. It all matched, and there was visually it didn't quite work for me. That scene, even though it was a good scene, but the costume didn't work. Although that was just one. That was one of the only things that bothered me about that movie was that costume selection right there. The rest of the movie, man, I liked it.
Yeah, because I feel like it is kind of a little bit hard to take like a Immortal Warrior seriously when he's got like white sneakers.
White sneakers and jeans.
I mean,
poking out. Yeah, it just didn't. Yeah, you couldn't take
big chunky white sneakers.
One.
That's a little bit. I mean, at least he wasn't wearing like cargo shorts or something, but still, or Crocs.
Yeah, he should have been fucking styling. He should have been fucking styling. The sword that he had was worth $5 million. They said.
I thought they just said $1 million.
Oh, just $1 million? Okay.
That Japanese sword.
Yeah.
That was the one that was Sean Connery's sword.
Yeah.
Like to start with, and after Sean Connery got beheaded, spoiler alert, then for a movie from 1986.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Yeah, he took his sword like because that was like his mentor, you know.
Yeah.
The guy that told him that he was immortal. So yeah. Now, another thing that I did not realize until we were watching it again last night was that this was directed by Russell Mulcahy. Now, if you don't know who Russell Mulcahy is, he's an Australian dude. This was, I think, maybe the second movie he directed. The first one he did was actually kind of a fun cult horror movie called Razorback, about like a killer boar, I think it was, which is actually pretty fun. But I knew him because he directed pretty much all the iconic 80s MTV music videos that you remember. He worked a lot with Duran Duran. That's how I knew who he was, because I was like a big fan of his. Like he did Hungry Like the Wolf, and he did the Wild Boys, and he did all that. And I didn't realize this, but he also directed really iconic music videos. The Buggles video killed the radio star, which if you didn't know is the first video that was ever shown on MTV.
I watched it happen, man.
Yeah,
on
I did
TV
too.
In California, there's a service called On TV, and the first day that fucking MTV came on, we were waiting for it to come on, and they had a little bit of a VJ and the intro, or what the fuck is this going to be? And then they played that. It was the first music video ever, and I didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah,
I wasn't quite sure what it was. was like, is it going to be a movie? It's weird, you know.
Yeah.
No, it's a song, but it's like a little movie that's a song. And I just tried to picture what that was back in those days.
Yeah.
A movie that's like a song. In a few minutes, you understand. You see a couple of them, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know? Right.
But yeah, he directed that one.
Yeah.
He also directed Turning Japanese by the Vapors,
Yeah, that's a good song.
Gypsy by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, yeah, great song.
I'm Still Standing, Elton John.
Elton John, yeah.
He did Making Plans for Nigel by XTC. He did some Human League,
Oh, yeah,
Culture Club. So pretty much most of the, like I said, he worked with Duran Duran a lot. I think he not only did, I know he did Hungry Like the Wolf and Wild Boys. I think he might have also done like Union of the Snake and Rio and like all those kind of ones that were sort of like similar. Like
Wild Boys was a good video.
I really like Wild Boys.
It had a Mad Max theme to it.
Right, yeah.
Which explains why the Kurgan had that damn Mad Max jacket on.
Yeah, because it was all, well, I mean, that was very trendy.
Very
at the
trendy
time.
at the
There
time,
was a lot of that stuff going on in movies in the 1980s.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can definitely tell that this movie was made by somebody that was primarily like a music video director. You can tell like in the edit, you can tell in the way the shots are composed are very like an 80s music video. And I don't mean that like disparagingly, I mean that like in a good way. And also the way that music is used in this. And I feel like you can't talk about Highlander without talking about the soundtrack. Queen.
Yeah, and they're good songs. Good Queen songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. First time I saw a Queen soundtrack was, Flash Gordon. I loved it. But there were really only like 2 songs on it that were full Queen songs. And they weren't even really full songs. They were like half songs. But this one has full songs. And they were hits. I remember them being on the radio. Like Who Wants to Live Forever? That was a huge hit.
Yeah, I think Roger Taylor wrote that one.
Yeah.
Or no, Brian May wrote that one.
And then the damn Highlander theme song, something about the Protectors of the Universe, or what the fuck was that? Shit.
Princes of the Universe.
Princes of the Universe, yeah.
Princes.
Yeah, that was also on the radio. And and then whenever there's incidental music, like somebody turns a radio on, in the car, it's got Queen.
It's all Queen, yeah.
Yeah, it's Queen. And I think there must have been this stuff must have been associated with a new Queen album that was coming out around this time.
What happened was that they that Queen were asked. Actually, that was another one they were going to ask Duran Duran to do the music for it, but I guess they didn't do it for whatever reason. But so they asked Queen to do one song for the movie, but when they went and screened the movie, they liked it so much that they wrote like a fuck ton of songs, like for the movie, and like each of them wrote different ones, like for different scenes they particularly liked, and they ended up using like a whole bunch of them. Now they never did put out like a soundtrack album. There is a score which Michael Kamen did. Michael Kamen has done like a fuck ton of fucking his movie scores as well, but and his score in this is good too. But the Queen songs, they never did do a soundtrack, but they released all of the songs pretty much like on other ones of their albums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the songs were written for this movie.
Yeah, and the songs are that good. They don't sound like just some knockoff song made for a movie. I mean, they're just, you know what I mean? They were hits.
Yeah.
They were hits. They were good.
Yeah, Ben said A Different Kind of Magic was the album. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah.
Because that was what one of the songs was called. Yeah, they did put about. I think the only one that hasn't been released is there's one point where there's a version that they do of New York, New York. They do a cover of that, like, which is great. But I don't think they ever put that out as a single. But most of the other songs were put out as singles or were put out on their other albums, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But they were actually like written for this movie because they were really into it. And it's interesting because I don't know, I think the Queen music works really well like with this because the movie is, I don't want to say it's not really over the top or outrageous or anything like that, but it does have that sort of a little bit like outlandish kind of 80s over the top kind of like
it's
tone
a fantasy
to it.
Tone. It's
right.
It's a fantasy tone, kind of like Legend or something, or what was the one with the little kid flying around on a damn dragon? Not that bad, but during this time,
Never-Ending Story.
Never-Ending Story. During that time, there was a lot of fantasy movies that came out.
Yeah, fantasy was big in the 80s.
Yeah, you know, even Labyrinth was like that.
Yeah.
Which was another fucking fantastic flick.
Goddamn,
but this had its own tone. It was a fantasy flick that could fit in with the other ones, but it was live action, kind of more grounded in reality, and it was supposed to be like hip and cool, you know, rock, you know, metal type inspired type thing, you know, and it was just it worked. I thought it was a good tone. It was a real good
Yeah,
time.
it kind of all worked together.
Yeah, they were, because some of the shit's happening back in Ireland. Scotland, yeah, back in 1500. But I was looking at it, that's 1500s? That looks more like fucking 900 or 1000, because it looked fucking medieval as fuck. But some of it's happening in the past. So the movie, constantly doing flashbacks to explain why he just did something. You know, why he didn't go for that woman. Well, later on you find out, you know. So it's blending what would be the present and the past together in the same story. So you have medieval stuff and modern stuff. You have technology and you have magic. So they were trying to synthesize it all together. I think it worked.
Yeah.
I think it worked. And it's hard to believe that this is a canon film, because canon normally would fuck it up. They would fuck something up.
Sometimes they fuck things up in really entertaining ways,
yeah.
as we've seen. But you know what I mean.
Just good director, good editing, good story, decent acting. And, you know, it was the kind of acting that brought the tone that they were looking for. It was cool. They even had a damn survivalist in there, fucking jump out with supposedly a MAC-10, but it mysteriously turns into an Uzi, and he fucking lights up the Kurgan, and the Kurgan fucking sticks him with a sword and is holding him up. And then he survives, though, and he's telling the cops.
He's at the hospital.
Tells the whole story. I loaded enough to kill a rhino. And he wasn't being charged because he legally owned all that stuff. But other technical note on the side here. In that scene, they showed that fucking cool-ass Ingram MAC-10 sitting next to him in his... He's driving around in a fucking Trans Am or Pontiac Trans Am or a Firebird or something. He just had the bird on the hood. It was a white one, I think. It's a MAC-10 when they show up, and when he jumps out and shoots the guy, it's an Uzi, which is about the similar size and shape, but they're totally different. And the reason why they did that is because MAC-10s tended to be 45 automatics, and 45 blanks didn't have enough force to knock the bolt back and cycle it full auto. And so what they would usually do is substitute MAC-10s for Uzis, because they were 9mm, and 9mm blanks had higher pressure, so they could cycle the action. So that's why they did it. But why didn't they just show it as a Uzi? You know, somebody had to...
See, I always kind of wonder about that kind of stuff.
It had to be a MAC-10 in somebody's mind.
Because that's kind of like a similar thing to, like, why didn't they just switch the characters to the nationalities that the actors were instead of, you know what I mean? Because it wouldn't really have made a difference to the story. And that wouldn't have made a difference to the story
either. Made any difference.
Why didn't they just have it be the same gun the whole time instead of, like, switching them out?
The only thing I'm thinking...
That happens a lot of movies.
The only thing I can think of is there may have been a fetish for the MAC-10 at that time, which there probably kind of was. Maybe it had something to do with... Maybe Russell was going to be there because Snake Plissken carried a MAC-10. Maybe it was supposed
Maybe they were supposed to be like a just like crossover universe.
Supposed to be, might have been an Easter egg having to do with
right. Yeah, maybe I didn't think about that.
It might have been an Easter egg that the survivalist was a guy like Snake Plissken. Is probably what the shout out might have been. And maybe it would have made more sense if Russell was in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, Russell fans would go, "Oh,
he's like, oh, I see what you did there.
I see what you did there." It wasn't the same gun, though. Snake Plissken's MAC-10 was suppressed and had a scope on the suppressor. Made no sense. It looked cool, but that makes no sense.
Well, it's a movie.
It's a movie gun.
It's just supposed to look cool.
It's a movie gun. It's just supposed to look cool. That's all.
No one cares if it's like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, other than a couple people like you.
Yeah.
Slasher Fred said, I love how this movie plays like a mystery because we don't know anything about Connor McLeod until we see the flashback scenes. Yeah. I'm kind of wondering if maybe that's why it didn't do that well at the box office, because this is a movie that, I mean, you have to think it's like, and now everybody knows what the fucking Highlander is about, right? It's about immortal warriors, like all throughout, you know, and they try to behead each other so there can be only one, yada yada. Yeah. You know, that's pretty much the gist of it. But I kind of feel like in 1986, you wouldn't have known anything about what the movie was about. So you just go and you watch it and you're just like, what the actual fuck is going on? Like, why is he, who is this guy? And why does he suddenly have long hair and he's in the Scottish Highlands in the 1500 now? And it's like, because they don't really explain it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to wait until like almost the middle of the movie before you really figure out what's going on.
Yeah, you know, in this day and age, you're watching this movie, you know basically what the story is about.
Yeah, most people do know.
But when I saw it in the theater, I had no idea what it was. Yeah. No idea. And there's all these reveals that were happening. So for somebody that is going into it blind, you're just seeing these reveals, and it's on the big screen, it's new, and it's blowing your mind because you've never heard of this story before.
Right.
You know, it's not an old story; it's a new story. So it was effective. I liked it, and everybody in the theater seemed to like it. So I don't know why it flopped.
Yeah, maybe it was just kind of like, I don't know if it was just one of those things, you know? It was just one of those things that just didn't connect with enough people. But then the thing about it is that the home video market, it really took off.
Yeah.
Like, once it came out on VHS, and like I said, probably got, you know, word of mouth and things like that. But for whatever reason, people didn't go see it in the theater. Because I don't know, particularly back in the 80s, I'm not real sure how much overlap there was between like theater going audiences and VHS rental audiences. I mean, I'm sure there was quite a large overlap, but I don't know if maybe people that would like rent things, you know, that wouldn't necessarily have gone to see them in the theater and vice versa. You know what I mean? So I don't really know. Trey says, I need to watch this one day. I've never seen it. I saw the sequel though. Now I saw the sequel once. I don't remember anything about it, but pretty much I watched a couple reviews of the sequel just so I could see like what the what the kind of prevailing attitude about it was, and most people hated the sequel, which was called you know, it was just called Highlander: The Quickening. And because I feel like the second one went back and like kind of shit on the mythology of the first one, because the first one, I mean, they kind of set it up. I mean, it's the whole fucking tagline of the movie, right? It's like there can be only one. There's only supposed to be one. Like at the end, when they do the whole meeting, they all the, you know, ones that are all the immortals that are left, they all get drawn to this one place and they do the gathering, and then, you know, they have to fight each other to the death and behead until there's only one left, right? And then they get the prize, like whatever that is.
Yeah, and they absorb each other's power.
Right. So they get stronger, the more that they kill.
Yeah.
But I feel like the sequel just like went back and was like, oh no, never mind, like now we can have a bunch of them and shit like that. So I think it kind of like went back and shit on the mythology, and then I think the third one went back and said, never mind about the second one, we're just gonna pretend that didn't exist, right? And you know what I mean? So it was like, you know,
they retconned that one, huh?
Yeah. Ben says the sequel is hot garbage, famously bad. Okay. Yeah. Ben also says, have you read the Highlander novelization or seen any of the TV episodes? I haven't, but I've heard like a lot of good things about the TV series. A lot of people seem to like the TV series. Christopher Lambert was not in the TV series. I think he was in the first one, but they actually posited that it was like another guy, like from Clan MacLeod, that was like, you know what I mean? It was like in the same universe. I think it was Adrian Paul was the actor that played him, and a lot of people really did like that one. Some people think that the series was actually better than the movies. You know, I can't really speak to that.
Well, my dad says that about Stargate.
Yeah,
the Russell flick. I like Stargate. I've never seen the
series.
They never see the series. My dad says, "Oh man, this series is good." My dad, he would defend Stargate. Yeah, I like that one. Then when he got that thing on his head, he got a black guy with that thing on his forehead. He knew his name. He knew all the backstories, and I was like, I don't know who that is. Oh yeah, man, some magical guy. I've never seen it, but my dad said that was a great series. He loved it. He liked it better than Star Trek.
Really?
He liked it better than Star Trek Next Generation.
I'll get around to it one of these days. I really like. I don't love the Stargate movie.
I did my dad's voice there, too.
But yeah,
I haven't done my dad's voice in a long time.
I know, right? You just talked to him on the phone the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trey also mentioned Russell Mulcahy. He worked a whole bunch with Duran. Yeah, I brought that up earlier because I said that's how I knew exactly who he was. Like when we were watching the movie last night, I'm like, oh my God, Russell Mulcahy did all the Duran videos. Because I used to have, you know, back in the 80s, I used to have all of the like Duran like video compilations that they put out like on VHS. And a lot of times they had like, when they did documentaries about the making of the videos, like they had Russell Mulcahy on there like talking about them because he was kind of known for doing all their real iconic videos in the 1980s. Somebody said it's the Sleepy Hollow series. Wait a minute, where was it? So I loved how the TV series Sleepy Hollow has many similarities to Highlander. You have a guy from the old centuries who wakes up in present day, and the first season also has Clancy Brown. Yeah, I kind of feel like, I don't know how new this idea was in the 80s, but I kind of feel like it was fairly new, I feel like. Because like you said, you kind of had a thing where, I don't know, this is going to sound a little bit off the wall, and I only just now the second thought of this. It kind of reminds me of the Outlaw of Gore like which was like a series of books from, I don't remember when they were written, but they made like a bunch of shitty movies, like especially like, I think made some in Italy and stuff. One of them was on Mystery Science Theater and had Jack Palance in it, and it's awful and amazing. But that was kind of about a guy who was like a regular modern day guy, but then like every now and then he would get sucked back to this other dimension that was kind of like, I don't know if it was medieval or it was pre-medieval. I feel like it was like a fantasy kind of kingdom, like Conan land. And he would get called back there like when anybody needed help or anything. So it's, I don't know. I feel like it was that kind of thing where it was like a combo of like past and present, like doing sort of the same thing. But I don't know. It's just, I don't love this movie as much as some people do. But I haven't seen it for like a really long time, and I feel like watching it again, like it really holds up. Like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can see why it wasn't like a huge success when it came out in the theaters at the time, but I can also see why it very, very quickly developed a cult classic to an extent where it had this whole extended universe and mythology, and there's like, but I think there's even a fucking anime.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, I think maybe, although you like some macho ass movies, you know, they're like Predator 1, you know. I've never known a woman that fucking did not like Predator, and that movie is just fucking pure testosterone. Okay?
Everybody likes Predator
because it's a fucking great flick, all right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Good
Everybody likes Predator. I've never met anybody that doesn't
maybe
like
one of the reasons why there's something about this movie that's very male, almost teenage male. It's very much a Neil Breen type situation where you're identifying with these lead characters. You're identifying more with these immortals. Okay?
Yeah.
And these immortals are being loved on by all these fucking beautiful women of different generations across time. So it's kind of a male fantasy.
Yeah.
All right? Very much so. And there's romance elements into it, tragic romance in it. But it's kind of the kind of romance stories that guys accept. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, that's.
I'll
right.
allow it.
Yeah, because not to like downplay men's sense of fucking romance. It's just that they're superficial. It's superficial. Man doesn't have to wallow in it, especially teenage boys. They just need to be told that there was a tragedy and shown it. They don't wallow in it. They just move on. Okay, that's why he's doing this. It's just a very male telling of the story, if you ask me. It's like that's what the market was. So it's a dude flick.
It is, yeah.
It's a dude fantasy.
There's a lot of sword fighting.
Yeah.
Immortals, like you said, loving on all the ladies.
Yeah.
And it has that kind of thing where it's like, I can't be with you, baby, because I live forever.
I am so fucking hot, I just can't be with you. Your heart would be broken when you die, because I don't die. I'm fucking superhuman. I'm here to save the world. I got to kill these other badasses until there's only one of them, and then I become the badass that runs the world. I, with godlike powers, can read people's minds, can bring the fucking world's leaders together and all the scientists. That's some Neil Breen shit. That's Neil Breen.
Yeah.
Neil Breen
wishes that he was the Highlander.
That is a Neil Breen male fantasy. Okay, he's going off on the shit. You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But can we talk a little bit about like the kind of little romance bit that goes on in it? Because I mean, Christopher Lambert, he's very
wooden.
Yeah, I was gonna say stoic.
He's wooden.
But yeah, in a way, I get it. It's like I said, he couldn't really speak English when he got so he maybe was like a little bit, insecure about that. But in a way, I think it works with his character because he really does come across as somebody that's like lived for hundreds of years and they're just like sick of this shit. He does kind of come across
and he
like
comes
that.
off as creepy though too.
A little bit.
Comes across as like a little bit creepy. Like he's you don't know if he's scamming. There's a Neil Breen quality to him.
Yeah, there is.
There's a Neil Breen. He's just kind of creepy.
But yeah, can we talk about because he didn't actually know that he was an immortal, that he was the Highlander.
He had to discover it.
He had to discover it later, like when Sean Connery came and told him about it.
That's a great idea.
He gets killed by the Kurgan, by Clancy Brown's character, like back in 15 36 or whatever it was.
Gets stabbed right through the midriff.
Yeah, he gets stabbed through and he's like, oh shit, I'm dead. But then he's like, oh wait, I'm not dead. And then like he wakes up again. And I love the way everybody in his town who've known him for years and years, like since he was born, were like, witch, get the fuck out. Like even his wife is just kind of like, burn him. And I was like, damn.
She was the one leading the charge.
Right.
Killed.
What do you mean we can't burn him? Fuck that shit.
Well, they thought he'd gotten in league with the devil, and that wasn't him anymore.
Right.
He was possessed, basically, by the devil, is what they
Yeah,
thought.
they were going to burn him at the stake, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Until finally, like, just the one reasonable person left, and it was just like, bruh, you just leave, you know what I mean? Because otherwise you're going to, like,
that
get
was
drawn
his brother,
in.
wasn't it?
I thought it was his cousin. Something.
His cousin saved him and got him out of there.
Yeah, just said, we're going to banish him. Like, you guys settle down.
Then he ends up with the, like, love of his life, this cute little Scottish chick. She sounded like she was Scottish. Yeah, Heather. He called her Blossom, though. Blossom. And
that was really sad. That really kind of got me in the feels.
Well, that was the idea. And like I say, that's like a good romance angle for teenage boys. They can relate to that. They're like, oh.
Well, because it's like he couldn't have kids. Although in the original story, I will note, he could have children. Like he had a bunch of them, like over the years, as you would, like if you lived forever. But in the universe of the movie, he can't actually have children.
Yeah.
So but he stayed with Heather until she died.
Died of old age.
Until she died of old age.
Yeah.
And then, like, he lived for hundreds of years, and every year on her birthday, he would go and, like, light a candle at a church for her because he promised that he would. And I was like, aw, that's really nice.
And she saw the big fight between the Kurgan and Ramirez. And Kurgan killed Ramirez. And she was in the castle. It was falling apart. And then he must have told her that explained to her that he was an immortal, because she she doesn't come out and say that she knows, but I guess she does know.
Well, I mean, you'd think that she would have
still young,
figured it out.
Old,
like,
right,
she's like, hey, I'm like 80 years old, and I look
right.
like an old hag, and you still look all hot and shit.
Right. And then in the 20th century, fucking couple hundred years later, finds out, the Kurgan tells me, yeah, I killed Ramirez. He died like a pig, you know, and raped his woman before his blood was even dry. And fucking he goes, oh, wait a minute. I see. He goes, that wasn't his woman. That was your woman, wasn't it? And he goes, she never told you. Yeah. Maybe she secretly wished I'd come back. You know, that kind of shit. Fucking with his mind.
That dude was an ass.
Yeah, he was an ass hat. But no, fucking Lil Blossom didn't tell him. Which might have been the right move, because it would just pained him.
Well, I thought, I mean, they didn't, like, explicitly go into that, but I thought that was the reason why she didn't say anything. Yeah. Was because it would have, like, fucked him up.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, I'm just
absorbed the damage.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep that to myself. Yeah. And she just, because she wanted, I guess she just wanted to put on, a brave face for him.
Yeah, well, Ramirez got killed. That was bad enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She wanted to, like, compound the fucking pain that he was going through. Ben says, sword fight experts claim the duels in Highlander are terrible.
They're just theatrical.
Well, that would be... Yeah. I mean, the guy that that choreographed them was one of the stunt doubles for Darth Vader. Yeah. And he also did... I think he also did the choreographed sword fights in, like, a bunch of other, like, fantasy movies, like, really good ones and stuff.
It's just theatrical sword fighting. Yeah. It's just to look good on camera. That's... What looked good on camera is not what those guys really used. No, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like two different things.
Right.
Slasher Fred said, I read that the original opening was supposed to take place at a hockey game. It was, actually. But I think the NHL protested because they said, oh, well, the whole point of you opening on a hockey game, like it originally was supposed to be, was you're supposed to show, like... It's supposed to show, like, violence and everybody sitting around watching it, like a gladiatorial kind of thing. And I guess, like, the NHL were like, well, we don't want to associate, like, the game with violence, even though that's totally why everybody watches it. But so, yeah, they had to, like, change it to, like, a wrestling match. And actually, it didn't even really register with me. I'm like, why are we at a wrestling match? I just thought that was kind of... But then when I thought about it later, I was just like, oh, yeah, I guess that was kind of why. Because I wasn't really, you know. Ben said, the Highlander anime is pretty good. Highlander, The Search for Vengeance. Yeah, I've heard that a lot of the media that came out, like, in the, you know, that's kind of like all the offshoot media is actually, like, pretty good.
It's probably just the second movie that fucking tarnished the brand name. Everybody says that the other stuff is pretty good. So,
yeah, and like I said, a lot of people like the TV series even better than the movies.
Yeah. I remember people liking the TV series. That was TNT, wasn't it? Was it TNT?
I don't remember.
Turner
I remember
Turner
it being
Network?
on. I don't think I ever saw it though. I mean,
TBS,
I might
maybe?
have.
Turner Broadcasting System, or what was the name?
I
of it?
might
It
have.
was one of the. It was kind of. I think that was one of the off-brand cable channels. Did that Turner Broadcasting System or something?
Yeah, I thought it was something like that too, but I could totally be wrong. Ben said the other thing that has never been explained is all the immortals are supposed to be foundlings. No woman ever gives birth to one. That's why the weird thing in the second one with Alien Planet. Yeah, I thought that was one of the things that pissed off like fans of the first movie and the second one was that they were like, oh, by the way, the immortals are like aliens. So
they had to take it that route, right?
But
yeah,
yeah.
they should have left it like the Lord of the Rings route, where it's just magic.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to over-explain it. They don't got to be from outer space or nothing like that, because then it went like more sci-fi, and I kind of feel like it was better like as a more like pure like sword and sandal fantasy type of thing.
70s and 80s fantasy.
He said it was USA Network.
USA Network. I knew it was one
of those.
That was the same one that would have like fucking Walker, Texas Ranger, and shit on it. But no, 70s and 80s they're wide open for magic. There's no reason to have any kind of explanation. No, magic, bro.
Yeah, magic.
Magic.
Period.
Like,
the end.
you know, you saw The Hobbit, you know, you saw Lord of the Rings, you know. You saw the cartoons, bro. That's what it is. Dungeons and Dragons, man, just like that. Okay, yeah, we're going to go with that. There's no reason to explain anything.
Yeah, I mean, as long as...
fantasy.
I mean, when you're doing fantasy or supernatural or anything like that, as long as the rules of your universe are consistent, you don't need to explain shit.
There was another fantasy one that was more sci-fi than this one that I think came out before this that I remember I saw it in the theater I think twice, matinee, for the summers, visiting my dad in Mississippi. And I remember liking it. I don't know if it stands up to the test of time. But it was called Crawl.
Yeah.
I remember liking it. It wasn't great. It was like 75% fucking cool with like 25% of like, come on, why'd they do that? But you know what I mean? It was a weird mixture of stuff.
I keep wanting to do. I think I put it in the Patreon poll a couple times, but it never won.
Yeah,
because I kept wanting to. Because I saw it. It was on like Tubi or something.
Yeah, I remember liking it, but I haven't seen it in a long time. Crawl, and there was another one.
I remember Crawl having like some pretty cheesy special effects, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
Man, they had the bad guys. They looked like a cross between like the xenomorph from Alien and a knight and a robot. And when you killed them, they had a little fucking jellyfish alien pop out of their head and it would just jump it out in the sand and try to get away.
God, I hate when
so
that
they were
happens.
kind of like a mecha.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
They had little jellyfish driving them.
Yeah, and they were magic. The sorcerer made them. Weird.
Little driving jellyfish.
Yeah, and they had.
I just made myself laugh with that.
They had a spear that shot the end of it out. It was kind of like a laser beam or a crystal or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And some dude found this down, and he's like a Luke Skywalker type guy. Found this throwing star, like a ninja throwing star that unfolded, and that was like the Force or something. Man, it's been a long time, and he had to have that thing to destroy this fucking demon that was taking over the planet.
I feel like for whatever reason I might have watched Crawl like in the last year or so. I don't know what circumstances I would have watched it by myself.
I remember I saw it on the big screen a couple times and just thought it looked amazing. I don't know how
we should rewatch it one of these days.
Like, man, that's some badass shit. And then certain elements of the story didn't make any sense. I was like, man, that's dumb. And then some other shit would happen. Man, that's some badass shit. Man, that's just dumb.
I'm so conflicted right now.
Yeah, it's funny. But I saw it twice.
Hugo brings up Lady Hawk. Actually, I don't think we've ever covered Lady Hawk, have we? And I love that movie.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
I love that movie. That was Michelle Pfeiffer and what's his name from The Hitcher? God damn it. Oh my god, I spaced. What's his fucking name? And he was
Rutger Hauer.
There you go, the Rutger Hauer, yeah. And he was in it too. Yeah. That was really good. Also a fantasy. Yeah. And Legend was really good. Like I said, there was a lot of good fantasy movies. Fantasy isn't my main, like I said, I'm more like a pure horror person, but I did like some of the fantasy movies from the 80s. Ben says, I think all the TV show episodes are now free to watch on YouTube. The first 2 seasons are a bit rough. they had no writer's Bible for the first season, so there are a few famous contradictions. Right. Yeah, I think that was like before they had that whole thing where you had shit to like refer back to. It's like, hey, you don't fuck this up. This is this is the rules. You know what I mean? Hawk the Slayer. That movie is awful.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
I watched the Riff Tracks version.
What was the one with the dude that had the damn fucking ferrets? Beastmaster? No.
Yeah, it was Beastmaster, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a Conan type of ripoff. He had these 2 ferrets in a bag, and they go out and do shit. I don't remember that shit.
I have 2 ferrets in a bag, and I'm going out to do shit.
Yeah, ferrets in a bag, man. Fucking, the ferrets were kind of like the comedic. They were kind of the comedic relief.
I thought that was Beastmaster, right?
Might have been.
Yeah, that was Beastmaster.
Beastmaster. The Master Beaster.
Master Beaster.
Master Beaster.
Hard Jaguar said, "Yeah, Liam Neeson is in Krull. That's right.
He is.
Yeah, he was young, I think.
Man, I gotta see that again now."
Ben said, "What were the ferrets called? Zippo and Zappo?" Yeah, were they?
I don't know.
I haven't seen Beastmaster in a long time. I saw all of these movies like back in the 80s because all we did back in the 80s was sit around like watching cable. You know what I mean? Like after school, and so you would just watch whatever was on. What?
She saw the fan. Yeah, it's okay.
Help!
Looked up the fan and yelled at it.
You're so weird, Pookie.
I saw Beastmaster in the theater.
Did you really?
Yeah, because summertime, seeing my dad in Mississippi, he'd go to Sawmill Square Mall down in Laurel. It was the only place to really go, and they had matinees, and it wasn't expensive. You could see a movie back then, I think, for like $3. If I remember correctly, in the 80s, it was like $3. Maybe more, maybe a little bit more.
I used to go to the budget theater where like the set was the second row movies and it was $1.
Yeah, they had dollar movie too. Yeah. But I think the new ones you could see them for the matinee. I think it was like $3.
Yeah.
And they had a damn an arcade with stand-up console games, which those are gone now. But there's fucking badass arcade for the time called Aladdin's. What was that? Aladdin's something or other. Magic Aladdin's or something. I don't remember what it's called.
Magic Aladdin's.
Magic Aladdin's Castle.
Oh, okay.
Aladdin's Castle. That's what it was called. And you could you get tokens for the token machine. Man, I fucking saw the Thing there. Fucking Aliens. But no, Beastmaster, Krull. I saw this one there. Blade Runner. Saw it there. Yeah. That would have been what, 83? 82.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was 82, I think.
82, yeah.
What are you doing back there?
She's trying to make noise.
Okay. Yeah. Ben says, you laugh, but remember the guy next to you in the Walmart queue might be a human shell controlled by a little squidgy magic alien.
Yeah.
You never know.
It looked like a little, if I remember what it looked like a little scorpion or something.
And he's in there like driving.
He would jump out of his head and fucking try to go away.
Okay.
Run away down to the ground. They could go back and get another body and come back.
Okay. Hard Jaguar said, "You're the hunter from the future." Yeah.
Oh, remember? Yeah, I kind of remember
Didn't that have the guy like the
that
big?
Was Italian, wasn't it?
Didn't that have the big chunkhead guy that was in Space Mutiny?
I don't know.
What the fuck is that dude's name? Reb Brown. The one that they made. If you guys are Mystery Science Theater fans, like Space. No, that's Robert Zadar.
Oh, okay.
But how do I know all? I know all the actors that were on MST movies because I've seen them so many times.
Jenny's got a whole catalog of freaky motherfuckers off of cheap movies. Yeah.
How does it takes up probably like 85% of my brain is taken up with like shitty movies because I've seen them like on MST so many times and they have so many like jokes about them. But the reason it's like so I can't take. I think it's You're the Hunter from the Future. It's one of those kind of like Sword and Sandal like Conan ripoffs that came out in the 80s. And one of them has Reb Brown in it. And Reb Brown was in Space Mutiny, which is one of the I think it was made in South Africa, actually. And it was kind of like a Battlestar Galactica ripoff. I think it even used footage from Battlestar Galactica like illegally.
Yeah.
Like without just like, we don't need permission to use this.
They're in South Africa.
Yeah,
they're in South Africa. You probably couldn't sue them there.
Yeah,
under their legal fucking structures.
Probably not. They're just like we're gonna
we're
gonna make a whole entire movie out of your movie.
When Turkey was doing it.
That's true.
Turkey rip off Spielberg and shit. Clips from fucking Star Wars. They're putting it in their movies.
Although they never got a good like it's like they went into the theater like with an old Super 8 camera like under their coat like filming it surreptitiously and then stuck it in the movie. It's It's like it just doesn't fit with the other
Stealing
stuff.
tens of millions of dollars worth of special effects with a little fucking handheld film, Super 8 camera,
I kind of feel like that's
and a
what
tape
they were
recorder,
doing.
and then they put that in there. Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's
Fucking Turkey had no shame, man.
I feel like a lot of countries are like, well,
Yeah.
why spend millions and billions of
Yeah.
dollars like to make these movies when somebody else already made
already
them,
made that movie,
and we
yeah.
could just rip it off,
Yeah.
and just like throw in some of our own shit that we filmed in a parking lot somewhere,
That's what Vaporwave was all
and
about.
people will watch it.
That's what Vaporwave is about.
Sure.
Why write a song? There's so many other songs that were already written. Just steal a little bit of that song, slow it down, and just play it, repeat it over and over again. That's your song. Reused, man. Recycled music.
Sure, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just laying around.
There's no reason to write a new song. There's all kinds
hard.
of songs.
It's too hard.
Too hard, man.
I don't mind like stuff being remixed and stuff like that because some people like do their own kind of thing with it. But yeah, I do kind of. It is kind of like funny the way they just kind of like take. What was that? It sounded like you farted.
No.
Oh.
She was trying to say I'm farting on the fucking show.
No, I didn't. I said like the chair sounded like
Yeah,
that.
it's the bottom of that rubber sole. on
Okay. Rubber Soul.
Yeah, here.
That's a famous album.
Here.
Is that? Yeah, I hear it. I hear it. He's like, you need a quieter chair.
No, I do what I want. I gotta look. I gotta make a shirt. All right.
Okay, hold on. Zach says Red Brown. No, it's actually Reb with a B. Reb Brown. Because he said, did the movie also star his sister Blue Pink and their mom Orange Green? Yeah. But yeah, so Highlander, if you have not seen it, it came out, like I said, in 86. And if you really like fantasy movies from that time period, it's pretty cool. It's like, it's a good concept and it's a cult classic for a reason. I don't really know. I haven't seen the sequels in a really long time. I've seen the second one, but it was so long ago that I don't remember it. And a lot of people really hate it. So I don't really know. I might eventually get into like watching the series because a lot of people thought that was really good, but because a lot of people like that.
Man, we got so much shit to watch.
But that's what I mean. It's just like, God, there's just so much content out there now that it's just kind of like, I'm so behind on everything. Like movies, series, books. I'll just never live long enough like to see or read everything that I want to see or read, which really blows. But yeah, so, okay, so we're going to wrap it up because we went on for about an hour. And we have to make a t-shirt for Amanda, who I think was here earlier. So we're going to get that done, and so we can get it maybe mailed out in the morning. So, yeah, tomorrow is Monday, so we're going to be doing a Haunting Mondays. And we're going to be doing another Season 1 episode. I thought we had done all the Season 1 episodes, but apparently we didn't because we haven't done Season 1, Episode 8, which is called The Diabolical. Yeah. So that's the one that we're going to be doing tomorrow if you would like to watch it ahead of time. So yeah, it'll probably be, I think it'll be 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow evening, we're going to be doing Haunting. So we will see you guys then. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow evening. Good night.